right. I had to take a big, deep breath coming off the excitement of that last race. But here we are. The racing never stops at Lake Natoma as we move back up to the start for the Petite final of the Women's Collegiate Varsity 8. Now, this is for the Division 2, 3, and club programs, and we're going to see a good cross-section of those here in this Petite final. In Lane 1, Arizona State. Lane 2, Lewis and Clark. Lane 3, University of Petite. Lane 4, Pacific Lutheran, and Lane 5, Pacific University. We've had a clean start by all crews. Now, a little different than yesterday where we had just absolutely glassy, perfect conditions. We do have a little bit of a wind. It's, of course, nothing that these athletes can't handle. For these crews coming out of the Pacific Northwest, they're definitely used to dealing with challenging conditions. And right now, that crew from Portland, Lewis and Clark, they just came off of a huge win as their Northwest Conference champions. And the confidence that they gained from that experience is sure to propel them down the race course here. They have pulled themselves up right now to a 7-seat lead over University of Puget Sound. That is a competitor in the Division 3 category, and it is something that we're going to watch as we go down the race course between Lewis and Clark and Puget Sound as they both vie for a bid to the national championships later this month. So right now, Lewis and Clark is your leader at 500 meters gone. University of Puget Sound in second. Puget Sound sitting with a 6-seat advantage over Lane 1, Arizona State. So Arizona State in third. They are the only club program here in this Petite level final and the only club in Arizona for colleges. So Arizona doing a nice job here. The Sun Devils looking at capitalizing on the performances that they had yesterday coming out of the heats. So Arizona in third, they are sitting 7 seats over lane 4, Pacific Lutheran. Pacific Lutheran, the Lutes, also a very strong Division 3 program. Back to them by about half a length of open water. It will be probably the newest program in Division 3, that is Pacific University. Right, I wanted to be able to get some stroke rates for you. Lewis and Clark continuing to walk away from the competition here. They have now broken free of the rest of the crews, and they're now sitting with about 3 seats of open water over University of Puget Sound. Puget Sound right next to them. That coxswain looking back from the Lewis and Clark boat, making sure that she's holding off that furious charge here by Puget Sound as they come up to the halfway point. So Puget Sound holding on to second. They are still continuing to be in contact with Arizona State. Arizona State in the 3rd place position along the shoreline. Coxswain from the Arizona State boat looking across her starboard side at that crew in lane 4. That's Pacific Lutheran. They have now broken free from Pacific Lutheran. PLU in 4th place, Pacific University continuing in 5th, just a little bit off the back here. But the real race heating up is between Puget Sound and Arizona. Arizona at the 1,000-meter line took a big jump, trying to come up and perhaps challenge Puget Sound for that 2nd place position. So we'll keep an eye on them as they progress down the race course. But Lewis and Clark, the pioneers, they really are pioneers of their program and of their university now. That Northwest Conference Championship was the first conference championship for the entire university's athletic department since 2016. So these guys are making strides. Well done to Lewis and Clark as they wrap up this WIRA championship with a commanding lead here in this Petite final. Whitney, we'll turn it over to you for the remainder of this race.
And as we start to approach about 600 meters to go, we are kind of crawling towards that 500-meter mark. That is going to give us our final race here, final flutter from the Petite final of the women's V8 D2. Right now, again, we are looking at Lewis and Clark with a very commanding lead here as they come into that 500-meter mark to go now. And if you are on the beach, you can kind of see their blades again flashing in the sun. Again, a little bit of ripple on the water out there, so some of those middle lanes might be able to feel a little bit of a headwind here, but not much, not enough to affect a lot of these crews, many from the Pacific Northwest. And again, Lewis and Clark in that lead with probably 2 boat lengths open water now. They have the advantage of looking at the entire field behind them now, which is very, very helpful as they come into that last little stretch. They can be pretty confident moving into that last 300 to go. Following that, we have a good race between Puget Sound and Arizona State still. That is lane 1 and lane 3. Arizona State from Tempe Town Lake here. As we pull back and look at the field, it's looking like Arizona State has taken about a half a boat length along the shore here. They are really starting to make their move and maybe start a sprint a little bit early here. Now that is at the discretion of a coxswain here. That is part of the art of getting your boat to a finishing position and has to be used very, very carefully because you have a finite amount of energy to work with. Now, the Arizona State coxswain seems to be urging her crew on maybe a little bit earlier than that 300 to go. And Puget Sound is not going to let them off the hook, though, because they are starting to challenge again. You see Puget Sound with that bucket seat set up in the middle of the boat. But Lewis and Clark has started to bring up their rate a little bit. They are charging towards the finish with Arizona State sitting up but being challenged by Puget Sound here, followed by Pacific Lutheran, who has also started to bring the rate up. Look at that Arizona coxswain here, really urging her crew on to hold off Puget Sound in lane 3. And that will be Lewis and Clark, Arizona, Puget Sound, Pacific Lutheran, and our newer program here, Pacific University, which will round out our Petite final here, finishing up their last 200 meters.